Zootopia looks like a dream, a city where predators and prey live side by side. No matter what are you, anyone can be anything. But what if that's a lie? What if the cute animals are masking a deep unsolvable conflict, one rooted in biology, power and population dynamics? Welcome to the dark side of Zootopia, where coexistence might just be a temporary illusion. Before we delve into the dangerous places that are hidden in Zootopia's society, it would be right to first determine what kind of political system is depicted here. We see that the city has a mayor, a lion named Lionheart, and a deputy mayor, a sheep called Bellwether. This points to a system of local self-government. Furthermore, considering that public opinion is very important for both the mayor and his deputy, we can conclude that the mayor is most likely elected or legitimately appointed. This suggests that the country is not a monarchy nor a military junta. In addition to the mayor, there is a city administration, press conferences, public statements. All these are signs of a republican form of government, rather than a dictatorship or autocracy. In many scenes we notice that the police are obliged to act according to the law. Journalists ask questions at press conferences, and the mayor can even be arrested when accused of a crime. This closely resembles a liberal democratic model, where power is limited by law and institutions. These are the key features. Separation of powers. The executive and judicial systems can operate independently. Rule of law. Even the mayor is not above the law. And free press. Journalists are not afraid to ask uncomfortable questions. From the structure of the police department where Judy works, we can conclude that the police are not militarized. They are subordinate to the civilian government, not the Ministry of Internal Affairs or the army. They operate within the framework of the law. There are judicial warrants, investigations and removal of officials. Overall, as we see, their task is precisely to protect the rights and safety of citizens, not suppress them. If we add to this the freedom of speech, active press work and political pluralism, and observe that Nick and Judy openly argue and criticize the system, and protests against predators happen freely, we can conclude that Zootopia exists in conditions of liberal democracy, with its characteristic advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the obvious. The animals are not just unequal, they fundamentally belong to different niches and have distinct survival strategies. For life as a phenomenon, diversity is not a bug but a feature. However, since the initial goal of Zootopia is to unite very different species to build something large and collective, predators and herbivores, animals from various ecological niches, savanna, desert, wetlands, tundra, are brought together. Small rodents, medium-sized animals, and very large herbivores like elephants, rhinos and buffalo. Of course, such diversity not only enriches the city life, but also leads to hidden tensions. Now let's examine these built-in vulnerabilities and consider what problems they might cause in the future of Zootopia. To begin with, according to Judy herself, 90% of the city's population are herbivores. This imbalance opens a backdoor to an old problem of all democracies – demagoguery. I won't dwell on this point for long, as the social subtext of the first part was essentially dedicated to this issue. In a democratic society, much depends on the opinion of the majority, and if you can instill fear in the majority, manipulating emotions becomes much easier, allowing for quick support of dangerous decisions. That's exactly what Bellwether was doing. She found a powerful lever, herding herbivores, the majority fear of predators, to seize power. Next, the first part clearly demonstrated a model in which reverse discrimination works. Historically, power by the law of the strongest was more often in the hands of predators, and now they not just form a minority, but are also subject to systemic discrimination and stigmatization. Foxes are inherently considered untrustworthy, and they are less violently hired, are pushed into more marginal layers of society, thus encouraging a criminal lifestyle, which in turn confirms the initial biased attitude towards them. But the position of predators in Zootopia's society is determined not only by their bad historical background, but also by the fact that they are minority in a democratic system. Purely because of how democracy works, minorities do not have enough political tools for protection, and the fears and expectations of the majority shape a policy that is common for all. If legal and cultural counterbalances are not built into such a system, stigmatization becomes socially entrenched and discrimination becomes the lawful will of the people. The next problem is characteristic not only of democratic systems, but also of states with strong bureaucracy. However, in authoritarian systems, a lot is often managed manually, making democracies more prone to this issue. It is about the fact that bureaucracy is often overwhelmed with procedures, makes decisions slowly, and even if it is honest, it may be ineffective. In a crisis situation, for example during a panic caused by the savagery of predators, this can lead to public sentiment outrunning government actions. In the real world, such sluggishness often gives rise to populists, politicians who shout, "The system doesn't work, we will simplify everything and restore order." They promise simple solutions to complex problems, but this usually masks a rollback of democracy and the infringement of rights. Finally, we can turn to the kingpin of all social issues – inequality. The motto of Zootopia sounds like anyone can be anything. Of course, it alludes to American history and the idea of the American dream, that anyone, regardless of origin, can achieve success through their abilities and hard work. But in both the cartoon and history, a good idea, when implemented, faces contradictions. Even if we set aside the underlying theme of social prejudice, foxes are cunning, rabbits are defenseless, different animals in Zootopia truly have different innate abilities and opportunities. From a social philosophy perspective, it's evident that Zootopia society strives to soften this difference. It results in something like a liberal demand for inclusivity. And as with real attempts at inclusivity, it's clear that those who feel they belong and have successfully integrated into the system might see it as some kind of naive wish. This raises a very interesting question. What if Zootopia's society went the opposite way, towards maximum specialization? After all, different species objectively possess unequal physical and cognitive abilities. Bears are stronger than rabbits, cheetahs are faster than sloths, wolves are socially organized, etc. Let each occupy its natural niche, since it's literally embedded in their nature, thereby creating a balance of supply and demand for labor, similar to market balance. In our human history, there have been similar experiments. Caste systems or early feudal societies, where each social class had a specific function. Farmers feed, warriors defend, priests manage knowledge and power. Such societies reached a kind of dynamic balance and could exist successfully for a very long time. The only question that arises is, if everything is so orderly, logical and efficient, where did they all go? To answer briefly, such systems are sustainable in a stable environment and mostly emerged in hierarchical systems during agrarian societies, where the pace of change was slow. After the beginning of the industrial era, the development of trade and cities, and large-scale economic shifts, rigid stratification crumbled and was replaced by newer, more flexible systems that demonstrated better resilience in turbulent environments. And greater system flexibility actually leads to the need to keep these boundaries between strata, castes and groups blurred. This reduces the risk of conflicts between castes types, and technological and cultural development becomes more creative. And once again, we return to inclusive policies. However, it should be noted that with such a wide diversity of coexisting species, as in Zootopia, there must be some limits to inclusivity. Because in the case of humans, it's somewhat simpler. We try to reach agreements at least within our own Homo sapiens. But if we have all lives matter, then it raises questions about insects, for example. I'm very curious if this will be somehow addressed in the second part, and I have a feeling it will, especially considering how the appearance of the snake, cold-blooded, in the trailer hints at this. If you are watching this video from the future, where film has already been released, and you've seen it, please leave a comment below if potential issues I mentioned today were addressed in it. Overall, political and social contradictions are understandable, but are there any ways to smooth them out beyond what authorities and residents are already trying to do? To limit the ability of the herbivorous majority to systematically oppress predators, constitutional restrictions and legal guarantees are obviously necessary. Under the influence of fear and misinformation, the majority might take incorrect and unjust decisions. And it is crucial that Zootopia has mechanisms in place to protect the rights of predators in such cases. In the event of a significant imbalance in numbers, predators should have a guaranteed representation in political bodies. This would serve an additional safeguard against discrimination. Since at the end of the first part we saw an example of a predator reintegrating into society, and considering high-profile precedent that preceded it, it seems that Zootopia itself is handling this issue quite well. The problem of bureaucratic sluggishness can be addressed by creating crisis teams and rapid response procedures, something akin to Winston Churchill's War Cabinet, which enabled faster responses to bombings, troop movements, supplies, etc. Importantly, this does not abolish other democratic institutions. Regarding the issue of limits to inclusivity, transparent criteria for citizenship and legal status need to be established. If being a citizen of Zootopia is more than just being a rabbit or a police officer, then new species wishing to become citizens will need to somehow adopt the system of values and understand how everything works here. This process could be phased out. Additionally, interspecies dialogue should be maintained as a way to reduce conflicts at the intersections of different lifestyles. Zootopia gives us a dream, a world where natural enemies can live together in harmony, but also gives us a warning. Without fairness, equity, and a true understanding of difference, utopia is a time bomb. So what do you think? Is Zootopia a model we should aim for, or a lie we are telling ourselves to feel better? Let me know in the comments, hit like if you love pulling apart pop culture, and subscribe for more deep dives into the systems hiding under the surface.